All right, everybody, welcome back. And after week one of the NFL season, I think we had a little bit more of a sample size. Nothing too crazy, but I'm going to once again rank these quarterbacks. And this time we have a little bit more variety in terms of tiers, starting off with the best of the best, franchise QB, really good, good, move on in a couple of years, bridge, too early to tell, and trash at the very bottom. Um, I think a takeaway of mine after watching week one is that no quarterback was really absolutely exceptional except for like two or three of them. And, a lot of guys were struggling to throw for 300 yards. I think only two of them threw for 300 yards. Not that passing yards is the most important metric for a quarterback, but I'd say quarterback play was pretty down in week one, but let's see where I'm going to put these guys. So this performance is pretty fresh in everyone's mind. We saw it yesterday. Aaron Rodgers, um, his team wasn't on the field too much. The Jets got dominated in terms of time of possession. He threw a pick. He threw a couple passes behind his receivers that, um, you know, costed him and a completion here or there. The interception he threw was a little bit behind. He took a little bit too long on that pass, but other than that, he made a couple passes that are completely vintage Rodgers. He threw a couple passes that, only his receiver could get. He had a nice connection early on with Garrett Wilson. Um, so Rodgers is always going to be capable of putting the ball in a bucket, putting the ball only where his guy can get it. Um, so I'm not going to really complain too much about the way he played yesterday. I thought the O-line was fine in terms of pass protection, really abysmal in terms of run protection, the run game. So a lot fell on Aaron's shoulders, and I think he's just going to get better the more he plays and the more the team can gel. And he's going to be in the good category because he made some really exceptional throws the way he always did. Aiden O'Connell did not play. Anthony Richardson, I'm going to put him in really good. Obviously, he kind of stole the show with that, I don't even know what that was, 65, 70-yard throw. He was kind of like flat-footed on it, just an absolute cannon of an arm this guy has. He possesses every skill. He checks every box that you need and more. He does things that not many other quarterbacks can do. He definitely went toe-to-toe with CJ. He had maybe one or two mistakes, one or two throws he'd like to have back. The performance wasn't perfect. It wasn't flawless by any stretch, but I think Indianapolis has a guy. They have a guy that can put up points, and the more he refines himself, the more he refines and kind of cleans up mistakes, he's just gonna get better. So I think Indianapolis as a team and as a front office looking at their quarterback, they have a lot to be happy about. Baker was obviously really good, but this isn't just a week one performance ranking. This is an overall quarterback performance. Baker's been serviceable, more than serviceable for like 2 to 3 years now. He had some flashes in Cleveland, but with in Tampa Bay, he's got a lot of things going for him. He's got really good receivers. Mike Evans is unbelievable. Baker's a good distributor. He's got good enough arm talent. My knock on him is his size and his lack of mobility, his kind of immaturity at the quarterback position. But if he keeps playing like he did in week one, which I don't think he will, he won't be playing um, teams like the Commanders who have a lot to figure out on the defensive side of the ball. But Baker's good. He's not he's not a bridge. He's definitely not a guy that Tampa Bay is looking to get rid of right now. They just paid him in the offseason, so I think the good tier is a good spot for him. Bo Nix, too early to tell. I don't want to be lazy and just put all the rookies in too early to tell, but I was kind of impressed with his mobility, his athleticism. He got out of the pocket, made some things happen, had a rushing touchdown. So I can also tell he cares. He's going to put in the work, has a good support system around him with Sean Payton. So um, the jury's still out on him for sure. It's definitely way too early, but um, I don't ever see him being one of the elite quarterbacks in the league. He's kind of more of a finished product with all the snaps he got in college, but he can be okay. That's my assessment. Brock, I'm not going to put him in really good. I'm not going to put him in really good. I'm just going to put him in good because if you if you're just a GM or a fan of the sport watching a football game for the first time and you see Anthony Richardson and Brock Purdy dueling on the same field, it's probably going to be night and day for you. You're going to see Anthony Richardson bigger, faster, stronger, bigger arm, much more mobile, just more gifted overall. And then you're going to see Brock, good distributor, gets it out quick, can layer some nice throws, but I don't see special with Brock. I think the Niners window is in its last phase. It's this is the last year Brock and the Niners have to win big before he has to get paid. And if he gets 50 million a year, like most of these quarterbacks are getting nowadays, that's gonna severely hinder them and their ability to retain depth pieces and superstar pieces around them, which obviously make them look better. They had no McCaffrey yesterday, but they were handing the football and running the football at will. So I don't think Brock is asked to do too much. He made a couple of nice throws like he always does, but I think I think there's limitations on him. And if Kyle Shanahan and if the 49ers had another quarterback, any of the quarterbacks that'll be ranked above him, they may have what, 2 or 3 rings at this point. Bryce is definitely not looking good. They're a tough watch, throwing too many picks, not seeing the field well enough. It's tough when his receivers don't separate a ton, but um, yeah, it's not really a good spot for Bryce. I think the thing with him is when you have such a limited body and a limited frame, you don't really want to put yourself in harm's way and take too many hits from these 300-pound defensive linemen. But um, I liked him coming out of Alabama just because of the way the coaches and his teammates and everyone who was around him, they just raved about him. So he's a great person, great kid, but just definitely the wrong situation. And I don't expect them to win too many games this year. Caleb, if I'm being completely honest, it's too early to tell, but I have such a hunch that he's going to be up here in these categories. He's just a generational quarterback prospect that did not look good at all against Tennessee in his debut. Not many rookie quarterbacks starting in week one for the first time look good, but Caleb was a little bit jumpy with his feet in the pocket. He didn't look completely settled. Missed some throws that he won't miss again, I'm sure. The accuracy was a little bit off, the mechanics, but if there's one concern with Caleb, it has nothing to do with him because he's just so gifted and he does everything well on the field. It's Eberflus. It's the relationship he has with his coach. I would love for him to have an offensive-minded head coach, somebody who can draw something up, get him comfortable early in games. But um, if the Bears underwhelm us this year, like there's a great chance they will, because I think a lot of people have them in the playoffs, maybe like a 10-win team or something like that. If they fail to do that, Eberflus is definitely gone, and that might also help Caleb because I didn't really love the play calling in game one, but I think he's going to get better. He's going to cover up a lot of the flaws around him. Not that there's too many on the personnel front because the Bears have good players, but some of those play calling flaws and coaching flaws that Eberflus might have, I think Caleb is going to cover them up. So I'm going to leave him here, but in the next coming weeks, I expect him to move upwards. CJ Stroud. I think he's a franchise quarterback. Two touchdowns, no picks, made some big throws, won a big divisional game. So, yeah, he's one of those guys that you can win because of. He obviously has a loaded team right now around him, but credit the Texans front office for trying to maximize the rookie contract window for CJ Stroud. So these are the years he's not really getting paid. So adding as much talent around him is absolutely the way to go. They have talent on both sides of the ball. Yeah, and they're going to go as far as CJ goes, and that's going to be pretty far. Dak's a franchise quarterback. I mean, in the regular season, he's in the last couple of years, he's been as good as it gets in the regular season. He's going to put up his numbers. He's coming off a career year. He takes care of the football in the regular season. This year, that's going to get put to the test, but I think he got off to a really great start. I mean, the Cowboys don't have a ton of depth in the skill positions behind CeeDee Lamb, so it's just going to be him and Dak pretty much trying to carry this offense. McCarthy called a great game against Cleveland. Um, Cleveland's a great defense, so give Dak credit for going there on the road, kind of starting off the season well, especially just hours after the contract got announced. So Dak got his well-deserved money. Is there a ceiling on him that he can't, like win a shootout in the playoffs against a Mahomes, against one of those elite quarterbacks? Maybe, sure, but not many of those quarterbacks exist, like a Josh Allen, like a Joe Burrow, like a Patrick Mahomes. So um, I'm not going to complain about what Dak isn't when he is a lot of good things, and I think he is a franchise quarterback. Daniel Jones is certainly not a franchise quarterback, and yeah, the Giants have to take their medicine. They overpaid for him. They extended him. They gave him a huge contract when they shouldn't have. But yeah, now you have to live with that, and I expect Drew Lock to get significant snaps this year and start a few games sooner rather than later. Because Dable's a good coach, and it's just a shame that he has to deal with this quarterback room right now. Derek Carr is going to be the quarterback maybe for 1 or 2 more years in New Orleans. Yeah, the numbers are a little bit inflated. He made some nice plays, some nice throws against Carolina, but most quarterbacks will. I'm not going to give him too much credit. I'll have to see him do that against better competition, but yeah, he's serviceable. He can distribute the ball well enough, and maybe they can make some noise in that really bad division as well, the NFC South. So, oof, Deshaun looked terrible. He looked slow. He's lost more than a step for sure. He's no longer the dynamic athlete he was in Houston. The arm accuracy was never one of his strengths. So couple that with the kind of loss of athleticism, the loss of mobility in and outside the pocket, and yeah, he's just a shell of his former self. He was so talented at Clemson and so talented on the Texans as well. Um, it's trending to be one of the worst contracts in the history of the sport. Um, I feel for, I don't really feel for Deshaun, but I feel for Kevin Stefanski, who I think is a brilliant head coach. I feel for the defense in Cleveland as well, that I think is a brilliant defense with Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward and stuff like that. So um, if your offense is constantly going 3-and-out and turning the football over, it's going to be tough for even them to overcome that. So Drake May did not play. Minshew's a bridge. He played okay for Vegas, the Raiders. Yeah, I don't think he's definitely not one of the 20 best starters in the league. He's probably a bottom third starter. Um, he can make a few throws. He can get hot. He can be a really good quarterback for 3-4 weeks at a time. But um, yeah, I don't think the Raiders are a playoff team. They're going to be in the quarterback market really soon. But Minshew gives them stability. Geno, I think Geno is better than Derek Carr. I think the Seahawks are better than the Saints, but I think they're both going to be just quarterback options for this year, maybe next year as well. The teams will be either looking into the draft to draft a younger quarterback and reset the clock on that contract, because Geno can obviously make every single throw. He's got a big arm, big body, but sometimes he's a little inconsistent with his accuracy. He can have some ugly turnovers at times, so I don't exactly trust him. I like Seattle's roster a lot. Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, JSN. Um, I think McDonald is a good coach, and he's going to coach up the defense really well. So if Seattle sneaks into the playoffs with 9, 10 wins, maybe it's not so much because of Geno. It's just Geno is directing the ship and distributing the ball well when he has to. So he's a good enough quarterback. I think Brissett is also a good enough quarterback, but he doesn't exactly. Yeah, he didn't win the game for the Patriots over the Bengals, but he's also not going to lose you the game. So I think that's something that these teams value when they know they have limited offensive lines and limited wide receivers and running backs. So just somebody who can do his job and be serviceable. And I think that's what Jacoby Brissett is. Hurts is interesting. I'm going to put Hurts in the really good category. Obviously, he was in the MVP discussion about 2 seasons ago, but it wasn't really pretty in Brazil in week one. It wasn't really pretty. He threw a pass across his body and in the red zone, got picked off, had another bad pick, led his receiver too far, but um, the numbers look better than the actual game. Like if you watched it, yeah, you'd see Jalen missed a few throws. Jalen, he's always looked a little rigid as a runner. He's obviously has massive legs that allow him to shrug off tackles and stuff like that. But he's not a gifted runner like a Anthony Richardson, like a Lamar. Those guys are graceful runners. Jalen isn't that. Um, yeah, and I don't trust him to win a playoff game. I think his career peaked in the Super Bowl when he lost to Mahomes. That was the best he's ever played the position, and he hasn't really gotten back to that point. Jared is a really good quarterback, and especially when the conditions are favorable. We saw that on Sunday. Um, they were playing a great team, a really well coached team, a team that's going to be in the playoffs in the Rams. So credit for him. Credit to him for winning that game. Credit Dan Campbell. The Lions have a good team, but it feels like over the course of their history, they've lost a lot of those big games where um, they play better than their opponent, but they don't close it out. And then on Sunday, it feels like the Rams kind of outplayed them late, but the Lions found a way to win the game. So um, credit Jared Goff. He's a good quarterback. I expect him to lead his team back to the NFC title game, if not the Super Bowl. They have that much talent. Jaden Daniels, he showed more with his legs than he did with his arm, but he's obviously working with a lot. He's really gifted, really quick, a really good runner. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he progresses throughout the season, week to week, how he improves. And I trust Dan Quinn to do a really good job coaching him down there in Washington. JJ didn't play. Joe Burrow. Joe's a franchise quarterback. He has him and the Bengals have this kind of routine of starting off slow in week one and two. He missed some throws, but he's gonna obviously right the ship. Him and Jamar and T Higgins. Too much talent to not win games this year, but you keep starting 0-1, you keep starting 0-2, 1-3. You're not going to host too many playoff games. And if Joe and the Bengals want to get back to a Super Bowl, hosting playoff games really helps. So, um, yeah, let's see where they go from here. Jordan, I don't know. I'm I'm gonna just put him at good. I've seen him miss a few throws. I've seen him the touchdowns he threw um, in Brazil were kind of wide open. The one to Jaden Reed was absolutely wide open. I think he had another one in that game, but I don't quite remember what it was. Um, yeah, he also misses a few throws. His mechanics aren't perfect, but being coached by LaFleur, having those young wide receivers at his disposal certainly helps. So I don't think he's not the best quarterback in the division. I think Jared's better than him, and he doesn't have these unbelievable tools like a guy that AR-15 does. So for that reason, he's just in good. Josh is certainly a franchise quarterback. He's a top two or three quarterback for sure. 4 touchdowns, no picks. I think he fumbled against Arizona, but found a way to win a game. My concern with him is obviously the turnovers. He's a perennial leader in the turnovers and the picks and fumbles, but also how much of this weight is he going to be carrying? I don't see too many assets on the Bills offense, so they're going to ask a lot of Josh, and he's certainly capable of putting up these numbers week in and week out, but that takes a toll on him, takes a toll on his body. So if you expect him to do that for 17 weeks in the regular season and the playoffs, that might be asking for too much. I just hope he gets some help from a guy like Jared Cook and stuff like that. Fields is move on in a couple years. Definitely not a franchise quarterback. I don't see him being a long-term starter. Still too inconsistent with his delivery. Likes when the pocket collapses, he runs. He kind of panics. They won ugly with just field goals. So maybe he can really compete with Russell Wilson and keep hold of the starting quarterback job. But I don't think Justin Field is anything too brilliant. Herbert's really good. He possesses more physical tools, more physical gifts than Jordan Love. I think he has a bigger arm. He's also just has a bigger body, but they didn't ask him to do too much against the Raiders, and they won the game, so that's fine. Pound the ball running with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Harbaugh knows what he's doing. He knows how to coach these guys. He knows how to coach his team. So if Herbert can stay upright, play clean football, because obviously he doesn't have too many separators on the outside with wide receivers. So there's kind of a way to win with this team, and Harbaugh's gonna make sure they play that way. Cousins was terrible, just flat out terrible. Um, Aaron Rodgers definitely looked better than him, and they're both coming off the Achilles. Similar age. Kirk Cousins is a little bit younger, and I'm sure everyone's going to say that Atlanta has a better offensive line, maybe some better weapons, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, but Aaron looked better than him. Kirk Cousins looked extremely rigid. He looked a little bit nervous as well. New team, new city, trying to make an impression, a lot of expectations, but man, he missed a few throws. He was slow. Playing against TJ Watt doesn't help, but I need to see something a lot better than Kirk because if not, Michael Penix is looming. Kyler's good. Kyler's for sure good. In fact, he's really good. He he's still trying to, you know, hit his stride after the injuries and stuff like that. He's missed a lot of time, but he's got he's got everything. He's got a big arm. He doesn't have a big body, but he moves around really well. So the more he can get guys like Marvin Harrison involved and like Trey McBride, he has some good pieces on this offense. So Arizona gave Buffalo pretty much all they can handle, and a lot of that is Kyler. Lamar is certainly a franchise quarterback. Went toe to toe with Mahomes. It's going to be tough to beat Mahomes, and we've seen that in recent years. So I'm not going to blame him for that. I don't love him in long third down and longs when in must throw situations. I think the defense can kind of tee off on him, but he can evade rushers and get out of the pocket so easily so that he can kind of deal with that problem. But when he has to make a throw, I don't have too much confidence in him to do it, but he's certainly a franchise quarterback. He wins too much to not be um, regarded as that. Stafford is really good. He looks good for his age. I think he's about 36, but he's still got the velocity on his throws, the arm angles like he always had. So his connection, his chemistry with Cooper Kupp is extraordinary. They won a Super Bowl off that, and I expect them to be a playoff team. So if I'm the Rams and next year in the draft, whatever happens, barring a crazy injury, I don't draft a quarterback. I look to maximize this window that I have with Matt Stafford and continue to add weapons around him because the defense is young, it's quick, and it's getting better. So try to give him more pieces around him. You have a Puka, you have a Cooper Kupp, but Matt Stafford definitely has a lot left in the tank. Mahomes is the best of the best, and sometimes he takes a back seat with his stats. This year he has I think he has less than 300 yards, one touchdown, one ugly pick, but he finds ways to win football games better than anyone. Um, I think he's the last quarterback to throw 40 touchdowns in a season. I think he's going to approach that this year. I'm not sure if he quite gets it. Obviously, two MVPs, but he doesn't run to just run. He runs to find lanes to throw in, and he makes plays that nobody else can make, obviously. So Mahomes kind of self-explanatory, best of the best there. Wilson, we didn't see this weekend. Sam Darnold, he is a bridge at this point in his career, but actually, I'm going to put him And oh, I think Bridge is fine because they're gonna explore the JJ McCarthy route when he gets back from injury. So this is Sam's moment to shine. Kind of have fun with these weapons around him. Justin Jefferson. So he looked really good on Sunday. Um, yeah, I think he's gonna continue to do well under Kevin O'Connell. Trevor Lawrence. Disappointing that they let that game go against Miami. He has all the physical tools for sure, but I don't know, something hasn't been clicking with him since late last year, and I'm still waiting for him to kind of rediscover that form because he makes one or two really impressive throws a game, but that's a game you expect the guys above him to win. If you have like a two possession lead late in the game, you absolutely expect Mahomes to hold on to it. You expect CJ, Joe, Josh, Lamar, Stafford, all these guys are expected to win that game. So I think the Jags and Trevor Lawrence are kind of getting a pass and even though they lost that, so that kind of tells me where he's at. He's not quite up there in that category. Neither is Tua, to be fair. Tua is just a good quarterback. His I would love to see him without his unbelievable weapons, both Waddle and Tyreek Hill. But I'm not going to fault him too much for that. I'm just going to be realistic and say that he's a good quarterback and not much more than that. And Will Levis is, no, he's not trash, but he's going to have a short tenure being the quarterback of the Titans because that team's a dumpster fire as well, and he kind of threw that game away. But yeah, these are my tiers. I think it's pretty fair, and if you disagree with anything, please let me know in the comments, and we'll see what adjustments I'll have to make after week 2.